Have you ever found yourself wondering, not in the chaos of the day, but in the quiet that settles just before sleep, why you feel so strangely out of place in your own life? Sometimes it's a fleeting moment, a sense that you're living someone else's story, rehearsing lines for a play you never auditioned for. Maybe you're surrounded by friends, laughter echoing around you, but a small voice inside keeps asking if this is really where you belong. Or maybe you spend your mornings ticking boxes, making choices, giving answers, only to feel each day that you're drifting further away from something essential. The question isn't whether you're loved or even successful. It's deeper and more unsettling. Are you being true to yourself, or simply performing a version of the person others expect you to be? There's a peculiar kind of loneliness that comes from this performance. It's not the loneliness of being physically alone, but a deeper isolation, being apart from your own soul, disconnected from your own desires, almost as if your life is happening to someone else. You try to fit in, to please, to keep the peace. You edit your opinions to match the group. You swallow your protests. You become fluent in the silent language of belonging. And still, no matter how hard you try, something aches quietly inside, a longing to stop pretending, to be seen, to be recognized, not for the masks you wear, but for the self you keep hidden. Have you felt this too? Share your experience. It might be the exact thing someone else needs to hear today. From the earliest days, most of us are handed invisible scripts. Family, culture, tradition, all with their own ideas of who you should be and what you should value. Sometimes these scripts are obvious. Be strong. Don't make trouble. Success means approval. Sometimes they're more subtle. A frown when you speak out, a sigh when you dare to dream differently, a look of worry when you refuse to follow the usual path. Over time, you learn to adjust, to smooth your rough edges, to color inside the lines, and for a while it seems to work. Approval feels good, comfort is safe. But Emerson warned us in his own quiet rebellion that safety can be a prison, and approval can be the softest kind of chain. Why is it so difficult to break free? Because belonging is one of the deepest human needs. We crave connection, acceptance, to know that we matter. But somewhere along the way, the need to belong can turn into the habit of self-abandonment. You start to measure your worth by other people's smiles, their words, their acceptance of the self you show them. You hide your confusion, your anger, your dreams, whatever might disrupt the harmony or risk rejection. You become an expert in hiding, even from yourself. Think about the small choices. Agreeing to a plan you secretly dislike, saying yes when you mean no, laughing at a joke that hurts you, biting your tongue to avoid confrontation. Each moment seems harmless, but together they create a quiet tragedy, a slow drifting away from your own truth. Over years, the weight of unsaid words and unchosen dreams begins to press down. The world claps for your performance, but inside you know the applause is not for the real you. Emerson's voice cuts through the noise. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. His words are an invitation, a call to return to the inner compass you abandoned for the comfort of fitting in. He understood that authenticity isn't always celebrated. Sometimes it makes you a stranger to your own tribe, an outlier in a world that rewards sameness. But there's a deeper cost to ignoring your own nature, the slow erosion of your spirit, the dimming of your unique light. Imagine the first time you felt out of place for telling the truth, or the first moment you realized your dreams didn't match the world's expectations. Maybe it was as simple as coloring the sky purple instead of blue, or as profound as choosing a path that no one understood. The fear of standing alone is real. It's why we shrink, why we mimic, why we sometimes silence the most important parts of ourselves. But the longing for authenticity never goes away. It returns over and over, like the tide, quiet, persistent, hopeful. You might notice it in the smallest rebellions. The day you say what you really think, even if your voice shakes. The night you stay up late writing words no one else will read. The quiet decision to wear what feels true, not what's expected. These are not grand gestures. They are seeds, planted in the fertile ground of your own honesty. With time, these small acts of courage grow roots. Emerson believed that trusting your own voice, however shaky, however soft, is the beginning of real freedom. But it's not easy. The pull to conform is strong. Friends, family, even strangers on the internet all have their opinions about who you should be. It's tempting to bend, to disappear into the crowd, to become invisible in exchange for approval. But the ache remains, the longing to be recognized as you really are. Every time you betray yourself for comfort, the sense of emptiness deepens. You become a stranger to your own heart, walking through days that feel borrowed. Yet something miraculous can happen in the moments when you choose truth over approval. You might lose some friendships, risk some misunderstandings, disappoint people you love, but you gain something irreplaceable, a sense of alignment with your own soul, a quiet pride in having chosen yourself. The world may not always applaud, you may sometimes stand alone, but in that aloneness, there is a rare kind of companionship, the presence of your truest self, finally invited in from the cold. If you're waiting for permission to be yourself, Emerson would say, you are the only one who can grant it. The world will always want you to fit in, to play the part, to be predictable, but the cost of belonging at the price of your own spirit is too high. Your uniqueness is not a flaw, it's the very reason you're here. Even if your voice trembles, even if you're misunderstood, the act of honoring yourself is a gift, not just to you, but to everyone who longs for the same courage. In the end, the question isn't whether you will be loved or accepted by others. The real question is, will you love and accept yourself enough to live the life that is truly yours? That is the journey Emerson invites you to take. Not away from the world, but back to the center of your own being, where freedom and authenticity wait patiently for your return. And so you find yourself, perhaps for the first time in a long while, sitting quietly with that question. Will you accept yourself deeply enough to claim your own life? At first, it's only a thought that lingers at the edge of your mind, surfacing in rare, quiet moments. A bus ride home at dusk, a silent kitchen late at night, a pause between messages and tasks. The world around you doesn't change. Demands and distractions keep coming, the swirl of expectation and responsibility never really pauses. But somewhere deeper, a small shift takes root. The decision to belong to yourself, even if only inwardly, even if only for now. You notice it in the smallest ways. Instead of reaching for your phone the moment discomfort rises, you allow yourself to sit with it. You feel the breath move in and out of your body and realize how rarely you give it any attention. For years you looked outward for guidance, for answers, for signs that you were on the right path. Now you begin to listen for a softer direction, a quiet pull inside, almost like memory, almost like instinct. At first it feels uncertain, tentative. Your mind is full of old stories, the voice of other people's opinions louder than your own. But beneath the static, something persistent remains, the wish not just to be seen, but to truly see yourself. That's when the urge to be alone grows stronger, not out of sadness, but out of the need to hear your own voice, clear and unfiltered, away from the noise of expectation. You begin to seek out small sanctuaries, a long walk at dusk, the quiet company of trees, the hush of early morning before the world wakes. The world of obligation fades, and in its place, a different world emerges. One where silence is not emptiness but presence, where time seems to slow enough for you to feel your own life from the inside. You find, perhaps with surprise, that nature welcomes you as you are. There is no script to memorize, no role to perform among the steady rhythms of wind and leaves, the low hum of the earth itself. The sky is wide, the ground steady beneath your feet, and your worries, for a while, lose their edge. Alone, you are free to be exactly as you are. Uncertain, hopeful, a little bruised, but also very much alive. These moments do not erase the pressures and demands waiting for you back in the world, but they begin to change your relationship with them. You start to notice how much of your life has been lived in reaction, chasing approval, avoiding discomfort, trying to fit into a shape that never really matched your outline. But here, where no one is watching, you can relax the grip. You feel the truth of what Emerson trusted, that solitude is not exile, but return, that nature is not an escape from reality, but a way back to the center of your own being. With time, the longing to be true becomes less a question and more a quiet decision. You take a little more time before agreeing. You speak your mind with a little less apology. You pause before sacrificing your needs for someone else's comfort. Each act is small, almost invisible to anyone else, but they add up. The distance between who you are and how you live begins to shrink. In the hush of these solitary moments, your intuition grows stronger. Your sense of direction, once so easily blown by the winds of opinion, begins to steady. It is not always comfortable. There are days when the old urge to disappear, to hide in the background, feels overwhelming. You stumble, you slip back into pleasing. You wonder if it's really possible to belong to yourself in a world that so often asks you to choose belonging to others instead. But then you remember how it felt to stand quietly in the company of trees, to hear the unhurried music of your own thoughts. You remember the small courage of choosing yourself and the relief that followed, and you know that you can try again. Gradually, you stop searching for confirmation outside yourself. You trust, even when it's difficult, that your own perception, your own desires, your own quiet wisdom are enough. It's not that you reject connection. Rather, you see that real connection is only possible when you bring your true self to the world. The more you practice this, alone and then, bit by bit, among others, the more natural it feels. Sometimes you return to nature, not to escape, but to remind yourself that belonging is not something to be earned, but reclaimed. Here, Emerson would say, you meet yourself not as a project to be fixed, but as a mystery to be honored. You come home not just to your body, but to the part of you that is still wild, still hopeful, still original. In these moments, the question changes. It is no longer whether you can love and accept yourself, but how you might live each day as if you already do. The world is still there with all its noise and demands, but now you have a place to return to inside yourself, a place shaped by silence, by honesty, by the steady practice of presence. You move through your days now with a different kind of awareness, carrying that small, quiet space within you, a place where your own voice is safe to speak, where you no longer need to earn permission to simply be. There's a gentleness in how you treat yourself, a patience that wasn't there before. The old urge to disappear into the background, to keep adjusting yourself for comfort or approval, has not vanished entirely. But now you recognize it for what it is, a habit, not a rule. When the world presses in and asks you to perform, you can pause, breathe, and remember what it feels like to stand on your own ground. Even in the noise and hurry of ordinary moments, you notice small changes. You are less quick to say yes when you mean no. You find yourself listening, really listening, not just to others, but to the subtle signals within, the rise and fall of energy, the sense of rightness or resistance, the quiet inner tug that tells you when something is meant for you or when you are drifting from your own path. Sometimes you still choose comfort over truth, but the choice is conscious now, and the gap between decision and regret grows smaller. Walking down a crowded street, sitting in a meeting, or standing at your own window watching the night fall, there is a steadiness you didn't know you could have. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or declarations. It arrives softly, like the first breath of spring after a long winter. You realize, perhaps with surprise, that you can let others misunderstand you without losing yourself. You can let go of the urge to be agreeable at any cost. You can endure discomfort, even loneliness, because you know you are not abandoned by yourself. The voice within, once faint and easily drowned out, becomes a more trusted companion. Its guidance is not always dramatic. Sometimes it simply reminds you to rest when you are tired, to step outside when your thoughts are tangled, to speak when silence would feel like another small betrayal. Over time, these small acts of self-trust accumulate. They shape a life that feels more honest, more meaningful, and more your own. When the ache of not belonging returns, as it sometimes does, you know now that you can meet it with kindness. You no longer have to bargain with yourself, trading authenticity for acceptance. Emerson would say that the world's approval is a shifting prize, but the peace that comes from living true is steady, quietly nourishing, a light you can carry wherever you go. The freedom you once thought was reserved for the brave or the rare is something you discover, bit by bit, in the smallest moments of alignment, telling the truth, refusing to shrink, trusting your own experience. Sometimes you still worry about what others think, about how your choices will be received. But the difference is this: you do not let that worry steer your life. You know the cost of abandoning yourself, and you are less willing to pay it. The real victory is not in being perfectly self-possessed, but in noticing when you slip away and gently choosing to return, again and again, to the center of your own being. You come to realize that your life is not meant to be a performance for the world, but a homecoming for yourself. The purpose is not perfection, but presence, not to be flawless, but to be fully here. Some days this is easy, other days it is work. But the promise remains. Every act of self-honesty, every small step in your own direction, brings you closer to the freedom that has always been waiting for you. So tonight, before you sleep, let yourself ask one quiet question. Did I betray myself today to please the world? If the answer is yes, forgive it. You are learning. If the answer is no, honor it. This is how you build the life that is truly yours. Not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice, with patience and compassion for your own becoming. And if any part of this journey speaks to you, if you recognize your own story in these words, share what part resonated most. Your honesty might be the light someone else needs to find their own way back to themselves. And if you want more grounded insight from Emerson's gentle rebellion, you are always welcome here. Until next time, walk gently and stay true to yourself.